Hey y'all. So it's Jaquie, and I'm back to talk to you a little bit about the IEP, somewhat more in depth than I did when I went over the differences between an IEP and a 504 plan. So, the IEP. For kids to receive special education services, they need an IEP or an individualized education program. So, if your child's been evaluated, the process of getting one has already begun. But there's still a lot to learn about how the process works and what your role will be. The more you know about IEPs for kids with learning and attention issues, the more involved you can be in getting your child the best supports possible. So, if you just started learning about IEPs, you'll likely hear about many things that are unfamiliar to you, and you'll probably have lots of questions like who gets an IEP, what's the difference between an IEP and a 504 plan. And so having answers to your questions can help you decide if you want to pursue an IEP for your child. It can also help you advocate for your child with more confidence. So, what is an IEP? An IEP is more than just a written legal document or a plan. It's a map that lays out the program of special education, instruction, supports, and services that kids need to make progress and succeed in school. Each program is designed to meet a child's unique needs. The term IEP is also used to refer to the written plan that spells out the specific type of help the child will get. But the program and the plan are covered by special education law or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. So, who gets IEPs? IEPs are a part of public education. They're given to eligible kids who attend public schools, and that also includes charter schools. Private schools don't offer IEPs, but students in private schools may be able to get special education through what's known as a service plan, also called an individual services plan. Even before they attend school, babies and toddlers can get services through early intervention. Once kids turn 3, they can get an IEP through their local public school district. There are no IEPs in college, but eligible students often can still get accommodations through college disability services. What are some of the benefits of an IEP? There are many benefits to getting an IEP. The process begins with a full evaluation that shows your child's strengths and weaknesses. The results allow you and the school to create a program of services and support tailored to meet your child's needs. With an IEP, your child will get individualized instruction that focuses on improving specific skills, but there are other types of help that can also be included in an IEP. Kids might get accommodations like extended time on tests or related services like speech language therapy. Assistive technology, or AT, is another type of support that can be part of an IEP. Having an IEP gives you and your child certain legal protections. It also allows you to be involved in decisions that impact your child's education and learning goals. And it gives your child specific rights when it comes to school discipline. All of these factors can help your child build skills, improve self-esteem, and find success at school. So the process of getting an IEP for your child can be quite confusing. It begins with an evaluation for special education and it ends with a written plan for services and supports. But the work of making sure your child is getting needed support continues long after that. So the more you know about how to get an IEP and how it's put into place, the more active a role you can take in the process. So what is that process? Um, so many parents wonder how to request an IEP from their school. You actually don't need to request an IEP, but you do need to ask to have your child evaluated by the school for free. You could also pay for a private evaluation, and are some community programs that offer free testing services depending on where you reside. If you're interested in learning about where some of those are in the St. Louis metropolitan area, I'd be more than happy to share that information. But sometimes the school will start the IEP process and not you. They may suggest that your child be evaluated, but keep in mind the school cannot evaluate your child without your consent. And so many parents have questions about how the evaluation process works. And so I'll be sharing a few steps about that. So to determine IEP eligibility, Once your child's been evaluated and the testing results are in, the school has to determine if your child is eligible for an IEP. So to do this, they answered 2 questions. 1, does your child have one or more of the 13 conditions that are covered under the special education law IDEA? And so I went over those conditions on yesterday, and that video is also available. Um, and then 2, does your child need services and accommodations to succeed at school? So the IEP team decides if your child qualifies for an IEP at a school eligibility meeting, and you'll be a part of that meeting as a member of the team. And so my school professionals like a speech language therapist or occupational therapist. And so if the school finds your child to be eligible, together you'll start creating the IEP. And if your child doesn't qualify for an IEP, there are other steps you can take. And so I'll make a separate video about different steps you can take in the event that your child does not qualify for an IEP. So sometimes, let's see, sorry, trying to see where I am in my notes. Um, Um, so one thing you can do if the school finds that your child does not qualify for an IEP is request a 504 plan. And this plan would, like an IEP, provide accommodations or other supports that give your child access to learning. You could also get an independent educational evaluation. And this evaluation is done by professionals outside of the school. And you could also take steps to dispute the school's findings. And so these dispute methods include mediation, and something called due process complaint. And so that's typically a last resort to resolving a dispute, and mediation should solve it. So if the school does find that your child is eligible for an IEP, there's nothing you need to do to get the IEP ball rolling. That should happen automatically, and it should happen quickly within 30 days. But it's important that you remain an active part of the team in creating and overseeing your child's IEP, because under IDEA, you have a right to participate in every single step of the process. So what's in an IEP? If you've never seen one before, it can be really hard to decipher. They cover many areas using terms and information you'll likely have questions about. I've actually uploaded a vocabulary list for those of you who might be going through the process or curious about what some of those terms are. And that is also on the resources page. But all of those pieces, from testing results to goals for progress, add up to the best program of instruction and support for your child. And so the information in an IEP can give you a deeper understanding of your child's strengths and challenges. And it should also lay out exactly how the school plans to help your child improve and build skills. So IEPs are developed by a group of professionals at your school. And one of the IEP team members typically acts as like a case manager and oversees the IEP. So you're a part of the team too, and that means you'll be involved in the process as the IEP is made. The IEP team will use the results of your child's evaluation testing to design the plan. And the scores show the specific areas your child struggles with. And having that information allows the IEP team to provide the individualized instruction and supports that your child needs. So if you've acquired a private evaluation, you'll need to work with the school to use the results as it develops the IEP. One of the biggest decisions the team makes when creating an IEP is what type of learning environment your child will be in. Schools are required to place students with IEPs in the least restrictive environment. Most kids with IEPs spend the majority of their day in class with their peers, and this is called an inclusion classroom or a general education classroom that includes students who receive special education. And so the point is to have them as socially integrated with the rest of the school and their classmates as possible. They should not be holed up in some classroom unless it is absolutely necessary and identified in the plan that has been set forth that you've agreed upon. what's in an IEP. There are many terms in an IEP. And in the entire IEP process that will likely be new to you at the start of your journey. Just know that you should be able to go to your IEP team at any time with questions about terms or concepts in the IEP. And so seeing the IEP for the first time can be intimidating and confusing. And so understanding what you're looking at can help you ask the right questions about the services and support your child is getting. So some of the things the IEP will include are your child's present level of performance in school, individualized instruction and related services such as occupational therapy that your child will receive, and supports like accommodations and assistive technology. The annual goals set for your child are a key element of the IEP. The IEP gives a target for improvement in the skills your child struggles with. And so IEP goals, they set the bar for your child's level of improvement for the year. The purpose is to chart how much progress your child is making with the services and supports being provided. The goals should be SMART, and that may be a familiar acronym for you, but if it is not, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound. Okay? So specific being, it should be very clear what is happening, what the goal is. We should have ways in place to measure that goal, be it sporadic testing or tests at the end of curricula, or there should be a way to measure whether or not the goal is being met. Is it attainable? Is it something that's realistic for us to get? Is it results oriented? So is it aimed at making sure the child progresses in that goal and that it will help the child be successful in their educational career? And then is it time bound? Have there been time limits set for how long it's anticipated the child will receive the services, to what time of day it'll be happening, to the amount of time each day it'll be happening? So we need to have some specific understandings around time limits in the goals. In traditional IEPs, goals aren't related to what other kids at that grade level are achieving. So a child can meet the goals in the IEP, but still not be performing at grade level. Some states now use what are called standards-based IEPs, and with these plans, goals are based on academic state standards. A child's improvement is measured against what other kids are doing at that grade level. And the purpose of that is to help close the achievement gap. So depending on what state you are, find out whether or not IEP goals are based on the state standards. Ideally, though, your child's IEPs will be strength-based. And this means that the annual goals look at your child's strengths and then find ways to use those abilities to work on weaknesses. And so this approach isn't widely used yet, but you can always ask the IEP team to consider your child's strengths when setting those annual goals. Think ahead about how you're going to track those goals and how they're going to track those goals. And I've also attached to the resource page a list of questions to ask about your child's IEP goals. So what happens if you disagree with what's in your child's IEP? Your role in creating your child's IEP doesn't stop once the plan is written out. In fact, it's very important that you go over the IEP carefully and you make sure that it has everything in it that it should have, and that you agree with what the school has proposed. So even after working with the IEP team, you may not agree with everything that's in your child's IEP. And if that happens, you can decline the IEP and you can negotiate changes with the team. And if you still haven't reached an agreement, there are other types of dispute resolution that you could turn to. You may be reluctant to disagree with the team about your child's IEP, but it's a fairly common situation for both parents and schools. So once the document is created, you'll go over it with the IEP team, and assuming you're all in agreement, the plan will be put into place and your child will start getting the services and supports named in the IEP. Your child's teacher will know about the IEP, but it's a good idea to speak with them about what's in it. Your teachers are your vital partners and helping your child improve their skills and stay motivated to keep working on challenges. And it's important that they remain in the loop about what's happening. Okay. So, how do we navigate the IEP meetings? So, your child special education program kicks off with an IEP meeting. Um, the entire IEP team will be there. You may also hear from professionals at school who are part of the evaluation process. Some might provide services or supports for your child. And that's just the first of many IEP meetings you will likely attend over the course of your child's school years. And so they can be stressful for some parents. And knowing what happens at IEP meetings can make it easier to navigate them. So if your child does have an IEP, you and the rest of the IEP team will meet at least once a year, sit down together and make sure the IEP meets your child's needs. The IEP needs to be revised as your child makes progress and faces new challenges and as new instruction techniques and technology become available. Okay, so you shouldn't just be stuck in the same IEP. You should, first of all, see the accomplishment of some of those annual goals that are being set. And those goals should be replaced with new goals to close the achievement gap between your child and their general grade level. If this is your first IEP meeting, you and the rest of the team will develop your child's first IEP. And after that, you'll meet every year to update and revise the IEP to reflect their current strengths and needs. A new thorough evaluation is required every 3 years unless you and the school agree it isn't necessary. So who sits in these IEP meetings? You and the rest of your child's IEP team attend every IEP meeting, and that team includes you, the parent, at least one of your child's general education teachers, unless your child does not work with general education teachers, at least one special education teacher or other special education provider, a school district representative who's knowledgeable about the general education and special education policies in that district, and this representative has the power to commit school resources for your child. A school psychologist or other specialist who can interpret your child's first evaluation and test results or their most recent ones, and then your child, starting when the IEP team begins to develop the transition plan for life after high school. And so this plan will be a part of the IEP that goes into effect when your child turns 16. And your child may need to attend meetings even earlier if you think it's appropriate. Early participation in these meetings can help in building self-advocacy skills for your child. And they can also make sure that their voice is heard throughout these so that, they're present in the schools and they can speak to whether or not the services that have been promised in the IEP are actually being put forth. And so having their voice either physically present or you having a conversation with them before entering these meetings so that you can speak out on their behalf in these meetings is very crucial. So a team member can be excused if both you and the school agree to it. Otherwise, the team should reschedule the meeting for a time when everyone can be present. You can invite someone who understands your child's needs, such as a healthcare provider, to attend the IEP meeting. You can also ask a friend or an advocate. It can be helpful to have an extra set of eyes and ears in the room, but let the school know about any guests ahead of time. Anyone who can't attend in person can also participate by conference call or video chat, but